Hi, and welcome. I'm Gary Allen, your designer and host on today's project. We brought you here to a corner lot, fairly new house, and some interesting challenges for us. As well as it being a corner property, this community sidewalk extends from the street all the way down the side of the property. That'll propose some interesting challenges for today's designer's landscape. Before we get started drawing new lines of impression on the grass, I thought I would take just a moment and talk about some features that this house already has landscape-wise. First of all, I noticed down the sides there is an existing irrigation system, and that's going to be so key, so important, so vital to not only the initial installation and recovery of plants and then getting used to their new habitat or home, but for the long-term benefits here in North Florida. It's almost a must now, especially when you get in a drought situation. Do you feel like these plants now, even though they've been here for 6 to 9 months, have kind of outgrown their space and feel like they're somewhat glued up against the home? Well, that's what I feel like. So the Pittosporum, nice and healthy, we'll relocate those. And the grass line is real close to the house. We're going to bring that out a little bit and work on the sidewalk here in the entry. This Feijoa is very healthy too, and I think since it's only been here a short period of time, it'll transplant real well. In other words, that initial pot or container shape should still be there in the root system. 1, 2, 3, 4 Indian hawthorn here. They're nice and healthy also, and I like the way it's under the window, so let's keep these and see if we can just build on top of that. Our goal now would be to draw some new lines and see how we can create curb appeal right here by the house and over by the sidewalk at the street. Well, the lawn is not so extremely big that it implies so much work, but we still want to take this big rectangle and soften it. I couldn't help but notice the existing plant material, the Indian hawthorn, the Feijoa, and then the pits over there, Pittosporum. We can do better than that. We need some color, something other than green. We need some contrast. And then, don't you notice how the plants seem to be glued up against the house a little bit? Straight line fashion, which is what the house is doing. I think some curves and then making some depth. We need 3D. We need the lines to extend all the way out to the street. And that's really the purpose of beginning here near the driveway. So with my paint gun marker, I'm going to kind of dot a line in until I see it going solid here. Let's just kind of come and touch the driveway here. The goal is to take off the corner around this curve, but here's a major point. That is, let's leave a point of entry into the grass or into the lawn here. So I'll kind of, if this was a curve that did continue, it actually comes in the drive and then it heads back out here. So I'll dot it in until I'm sure we know where it goes. Oh, that curve should look pretty good. I like the looks of that, so I'm going to make this solid all the way towards you. Again, the driveway line allows us to enter, and this what we call a thumb bed because it's kind of shaped like a thumb. Will really give us some impact, you know, for the entrance here. When you stand at the street looking at the house, this is going to be that other 3D. Friends, you've got to have big swooping curves that come out and go back, not a lot of little squiggle lines. This line really, now I'll curve in here and touch close to where the Pittosporum is. Something like that. You know, with your arm, I know you see me do this a lot, but as I extend out, see, that should be, my arm's not that long, but if you had even a longer arm, natural, easy mowing curves, see? So I let that, there's your radius right there as you draw. Now, coming to the corner of the house, I need this bed to come out and make a pretty big statement here. It's like the bigger the better, because we need that 3D on the corner of the house here, a tree and some underplanting. And this bed line continues and runs along close to the side of the house here. So I've just kind of continued the line along the back of the house there, nice and smooth. Let's take a moment, pop down a couple doors and talk about an existing landscape that's really been there for some time and how good it looks. Then I'll come back and we'll work on our sidewalk stretch. The first thing I must say I like is this beautiful display of gold color with the gold lantana. Loves the heat. Look how they've used one plant here under the mailbox with the mailbox planting tree. The crepe myrtle provides color, and really this plant loves the heat. This is still a low maintenance plant. We're going to talk about some of the maintenance here across the driveway. You see the balance. Crepe myrtle tree, gold lantana underneath. Now, they've also splashed some other lantanas in. I see yellow, orange, gold, white, lavender even. Just a wide array of color there. There is one thing though that I want to show you, and that is that I see a little difficulty, and it has to do with the turf grass here, the arrangement or design. Everything is beautiful. I love the beds, the way you're minimizing the lawn, but I found it kind of tough from a standpoint of maintenance, how you would get into the grass to mow it. You see how the bed actually locks us out? There's nowhere you can get the lawnmower in here over this curbing or wood border. So that's one reason on the driveway that we let it come to a point where you could enter. That's the only thing I see here. Low maintenance. They've got Aztec grass, the evergreen giant border grass, iris, juniper. Even the boxwood need a little bit of pruning, but mostly I would say this is a 75–80% low maintenance plant type variety selection. And that's important. It's almost critical because that's what everyone wants, low maintenance, so they have more time to enjoy, huh? Well, let's head back to our project and talk about that sidewalk we mentioned all the way down the side of the yard. Looks good. Okay, there's a couple things I'd like to even mention. That behind me here also is this homeowner's property. It goes into a natural area, but she comes down and bends around that curve, and she's done some improvement there with lantana, some hollies, and some crepe myrtle. So maybe we can even incorporate some of that into our plan. Well, the long stretch here. What we want to do is a big circle. I think this is going to help somewhat just soften the long stretch of walk that we have. Or see, you would walk right through the bed. How about that when you're walking down the sidewalk? Now, as you back up, you'll get the feel of this long stretch here. It is quite a distance. If you're on a bicycle, it's not that big a deal, but if you're walking by hand. So the circle here is going to help complement even this corner planting on the side of the house. I mean, these curves should work together. If we use similar varieties of trees and plants, then that should all tie in. Circle, a curve, and now we're bringing you out to the street where the sidewalk ends or begins, depending on how you look at it. Well, with grass open on both sides, sure, it's nice, neat, well trimmed, always acceptable. Can we improve on that? Can we draw you into here by making a little apron or a planting that does the same thing by softening the intersection? And with that in mind, I'm going to just draw another big circular bed that jumps over the sidewalk here and continues to the street, curving out that way. Now, what I've got here again is a bed that could take a patio tree or a tree of some type to establish some height, and then lower plants underneath here. I think now, if we could flash to the afters, you would see that when you drive in to the subdivision, this house really has a lot of presentation. It should be inviting and draw you right into the yard, right down the sidewalk. So now if you're the contractor, if you're the homeowner, are you ready for the next phase or next step? Do these design lines and curves look good? Are they fine-tuned enough to go to the next step? And logically, what is our next step? Well, it would be premature to go hunt for plants when actually we've got clean out to do, so let's bring the guys in, have them take these lines and clean out the unwanted grass, and it'll give us a whole new look. Well, friends, we were fortunate enough to have some rain yesterday. Plus, with the sprinkler system, it's really preparing plants like this that are established and existing to be able to transplant with a great success rate. See the way the ball is holding together on that Feijoa? Oh, that's what we want there. That is definitely what we want. It's great also to get the beds cleaned out and prepped to this point. We've taken some of the Indian hawthorn, these 4 out of here. We need to get them in the ground before they start wilting too bad. And you see this downspout now? Our eye and attention is really going right in that direction. So I'm going to use the fountain grass here, the foxtail, and kind of help soften, let this thing just go to town. Fountain grass, the common name here. I'll do the same thing when I look to the right corner here, another downspout. Sometimes these aren't so attractive, and it's not that we can block it all the way up, but there's a couple things I like about the fountain grass here. Simply the color, and then the texture, that flowing with the beautiful burgundy foliage. Looks great on that taupe kind of gray wall, doesn't it? I'll use one more on the right corner. I just want to make sure these are packed in really good. It's not a bad idea in this kind of heat to go ahead and wash the plants down and really get them settled in well. Let's talk about trees now that the bed lines are set up. Logically, that's our next line of reasoning. We've got 3 East Palatka holly trees. We'll place one here in the corner of the house so that it can really do its thing. Then I'm going to push one forward here in our thumb bed so that we can tie this together. I said 3, we talk about triangles, so back, right, center, and over here on the left. Let's take advantage of this corner that we've cleaned out, place a holly tree in here also, and we'll have our triangle. While the guys are doing that, installing there, now it's time to talk about plant material. What have you got for us over there, Dan?
Well, I've got a variety of plant material, but the one I like a lot is this razzleberry. Certainly a dwarf grower, small, compact. What we like too about it is the burgundy foliage. It's got a little pink flower on it. Really highlights our green plants well.
How does that rate cold tolerance wise?
Very good. It stands up against the cold. And over here we have a sago palm as well. Sagos are nice because they also are in the tropical family look. We have the palm that everybody's interested in having in their home. And the nice thing about this thing is it doesn't get very big. It's kind of a medium grower and certainly highlights all of our plant material.
And we've got 3 of those, so we can do the triangle thing with those.
Sure can.
And how do we use that in the landscape? lower accent, huh?
Yes,
Kind
basically.
of a low specimen. Yeah. Good, dependable green foliage. How about cold tolerance on that?
Very, very much so. And
Yeah.
very hardy plant, been around forever.
Yeah, it is one of the oldest plants in here. Well, and then we have some generic green things, some azaleas, even some hollies, but let's talk about some more color here. And this is the Melampodium. This is an annual, about 8 to 10 inches overall height. A full sun lover. It's got a little daisy-like flower on it, so you could even call it a dwarf daisy. And again, full sun, and we're dependent on this to splash this highlight of color in through the summer months. But what I really like, a new thing for us, is this stone crop sedum. What a beautiful foliage color. A succulent plant that grows, well, stays pretty low, 8 to 12 inches also. And there's another reason why not only the foliage on here, but makes this plant ideal for those of you who love to start your own cuttings. This plant will root so easily. Come in, make a nice clean cut, pull away some of these leaves very carefully to expose a little stem, and you can dip this in your little powdered rooting hormone and take a cutting just like this, stick it right in the ground in a nice loose media, you'll have a new plant. 3 to 4 per plant or per pot will really give you a nice full look. Isn't this a beautiful ground cover? Now, these aren't flowering, but this does have a pink flower on it that must contrast really well with this bluish purple veined, again, succulent, low-growing sedum. There are so many different types of sedum, some tiny leaf. This is kind of medium. There's some that have a big, bulky leaf to them. So we look forward to putting this to work in a full sun area. Well, what do you say we take some of these plants and put them to work? For a nice fragrance, we found some 1-gallon tea olives that need a little time, need a little help, but with a good shot of fertilizer, they'll fill up in this void upright and provide that beautiful fragrance. Some of them have a flower on it now that we're even enjoying. Well, let's show you what we've been doing here. The holly tree on the corner with that nice green foliage and the hawthorn that we've transplanted, we've just used Aztec to kind of curve in there and accent that curved line. I think it works good. And now we come down closer towards you as you're standing on the front porch, really at the entrance of the house. And we've used some low juniper in here for the bluish green contrast. And then our Melampodium. We've really taken the liberty to use this color, this beautiful daisy-like color, along with the razzleberry, pizzazz, and that beautiful pink flower. They work well together, a great contrast. So with addition to that is just the green border grass. And it continues, as we will, toward the driveway. I really like the way, even from this angle, things have shaped up. And of course, in our mind, it's got to look good coming and going. And that's what we've tried to really do here. Look at the Melampodium, the gold little daisy, how it goes behind me. And then the Loropetalum does the same thing. Even though, because we're tight here, we can't connect with the flowers, we've still got 2 semicircles going that kind of at least make the horseshoe or make the bend. And the border grass all the way to the drive. Here again, we've repeated a similar plant back there, the tea olive for fragrance. And really, I think a few of these are ready to go in the ground. Now, since I'm going to plant a 1-gallon, I've got an undersized shovel. Why dig a real big hole for a little 1-gallon plant? Okay, you can see behind me the guys are going to town mulching. That always really puts the final look on things. And I've got our stone crop sedum. I want to make application to that right underneath here. There's one little problem we ran into, and you would too if you didn't know how many of what plants you were going to use, and a lot of times we don't. But the Melampodium, we need a few more of them. And what I want to do is run a double row or line just like this out in this bed. So that's going to curve and continue here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, need about 5 of those. I'll use the stone crop sedum underneath here to splash for this beautiful contrasting color. Now, one thing we might mention is when I picked and found these, there may not be any more of these available. So these are kind of like a standalone, a one-time only. If you would, And so we're gonna put them pretty much in the center of the yard. When we get the mulch underneath here, it's gotta look really good. Can't wait. Remember, our project is only half complete. Next time, we want to show you what bed lines along the street and curb are going to do for this landscape project. Join us for the next Designer's Landscape.